Hey everyone, welcome to Queerly Recommended, the podcast where we recommend queer films, books, TV shows, and more. I'm Kris Bright, a contemporary romance writer for Bold Strokes Books, and today I will be recommending an award-winning movie from 2003.
Who can even remember back that far?
I barely do.
What happened then? You were a toddler.
As a toddler.
You're a toddler. Oh, right. And I'm Tara Scott. I review queer women's fiction at the Lesbian Review and Smart Bitches Trashy Books. And this week, I will be recommending a video game.
Nice.
So, Kris, what has been going on in your life?
Well, I finally finished my book Catch. Finished it.
Woo.
I turned it in. It was only 2 weeks late, so that's good.
Are you telling people what it's about yet, or are we going to let them linger and wonder?
It has to do with football. American football.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a pretty important distinction.
Yes,
like we mentioned last time, we actually have a pretty international podcast listenership, which is kind of cool. We actually just looked at it together.
We did.
And there were countries I did not expect in our top 10. And countries where they would probably call it football.
Right. And so American football, for sure. Pigskin, oval shape, laces. Laces out! We all remember that. So I finally got, it's kind of a past-present type story. So I finally turned that in. And so now I'm only 2 weeks late starting the new book. So
Yay!
Yay me! Woohoo! Also, for my Patreon account, what I did was I had all the patrons who wanted to participate send a picture of their pet or pets. And then I made a collage and I posted it. And it's just so, I love it so much. It's so cute. We have such amazing animals in our lives. And it was just so cool to see all of our pets on one collage. So it's great. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want to see this collage, how would people do that? They have to be patrons, right?
They do. And it's so cool because we have like, some of our patrons have like horses and goats and we have dogs and cats, and there are, I'm trying to think, what other animals? We have a lot of different, some farm animals, some cows that are actual pets, so it's kind of cool, a lot of fun.
So for people that are new listeners, what happens with, I'm teeing this up very, very badly, but I think it's pretty cool what you do with the Patreon money, because you don't go and pay bills or buy fancy shit with it. You do something actually pretty cool.
Yes, so all the pledges from my Patreon account. A patron of the month picks a shelter around the country, and we've actually gone overseas as well. We pick a shelter, and then usually we'll go through whatever, if it's an animal shelter or like a rescue place, we'll see what they need on their wish list on Amazon, and then I'll use the pledges and buy their wish list, and then the patron goes, I have it shipped to the patron, and the patron can take it to the shelter or the wherever it is, and so everybody gets involved. And then they take pictures, and then we post it, so everybody gets to see where their money goes. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
So if you're not a patron yet, you should do it because animals get helped, and you can see a cute collage, and she does pretty cool interviews and sometimes events. Right,
and so like tomorrow, which is last week. Ooh.
Jesus Christ.
I know. So it's Monday night, but so tomorrow I'm interviewing fantastic musician Lucy Kaplansky for my Patreon page. And I'm so excited about that. Will I sleep tonight? I don't know, but I'm pretty excited. So I get to do fun things, and I get to have really cool interviews with people with interesting jobs or interests, and it's just a good time. I have fun. We have fun over there. Come join us.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I know. And so here's something else. Here's something that's very exciting. I'm very excited. My mother, who has stage 4, almost stage 5 kidney disease, finally got her cannabis license, the medicinal marijuana license.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, so she finally got that. And I'd forgotten that they had a telehealth call today with the doctor. And my dad called, and I was on the phone with one of our account reps. And I couldn't take the call, and I wasn't thinking anyway. My dad never calls me unless it's an emergency. That is my dad. He calls when something bad happens. So I'm talking to Renee, and I'm like, I'm going to have to let you go because I don't know what's going on. So I looked at you know how your iPhone gives you like a transcript of what's been said or a voicemail.
Yeah.
And so my dad was saying, well, your mom got the card. And so I called him back and I started singing Mary Jane. So my dad's like, you know, because my dad was like, he was in the military and he had did a lot of things with drugs, against drugs and stuff. So he goes, it's really weird for me, to witness this and see how this will affect and how it will help,
Oh, yeah.
Mom.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. My mom, well, I mean, we're in Canada, so you don't actually need special licenses for it or anything like that. But my mom has had chronic pain. Gosh, I don't know. I don't really remember a time in my life where she hasn't had some kind of pain. And it has been so helpful for her. And I mean, I like to use cannabis both recreationally and for pain management too. Like there are times with my migraines, sometimes it's just a CBD, but there's days where it's like I've taken Advil and Tylenol and CBD and I've taken a triptan and there's nothing left. So I'll just grab an edible with the THC and it will just like knock me the fuck out. And it's like, am I still in pain? Probably. Am I noticing or do I care? Not really. That's when I'll just be like, okay, dark room, something gentle on Netflix.
Aww.
I'm just gonna lay here. But like, it's so helpful. And it's great to see the use, like see access to it expand.
Right.
And I hope it continues to expand further.
Right. And I really do hope it helps my mom, because apparently one of the side effects of having this is extreme itching.
The munchies?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, not that, maybe. But I guess when you have kidney failure, you itch. And it's not like topical itch. It's like internal itch. And you can't scratch it. So it's really, really bad. Oh. And so it's like 20 to 90% of people with failed kidneys experience this. And it goes from either mild or life-altering. And my mother's in the life-altering stage of that. Oh, no. So when she she itched, that's why she was in the emergency room last weekend. Because she literally was trying to peel her skin off her body to get to underneath all that, to get to the itch. So hopefully this will help her.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it will. So I'm pretty excited about it. So I told them, I'm no expert, but I'm going to take you to the store because I don't trust them to make the right decision.
Well, that's I really hope we get to a place where it ends up fully decriminalized. And then also I don't know, can we maybe release all the people, especially right. Disproportionately Black men who are incarcerated because they had small amounts of weed? Can we just...
Right. It needs to be erased, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So in short, cannabis for everybody.
Right.
If that's what you want.
I have said that forever. It would get us out of national debt in 3 days. We would be out of debt. If you tax the shit out of it, then we would be out, because everybody would buy it.
And Frito-Lay would make so much money.
Right.
I'm surprised they're not lobbying harder.
You would think. I guess apparently they have enough money, but I know that I would certainly I'd push for it. For sure. I would. So, that is my life. What's going on in your life?
So, we appear to have a little reader on our hands, which is pretty cool. Yay! So I have a 10-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. And the 10-year-old, she's not really a fan of reading. She's big fan of gaming. That's her jam. All day, every day. And that's cool. But our 7-year-old, she actually taught herself to read last year, which was pretty cool. Yeah, it is amazing. And it's funny because I also taught myself how to read before I went to kindergarten. That's what my parents told me. I don't remember learning how to read. I just remember always knowing how to read. Fun fact, did I tell you this before, that I was the valedictorian of my kindergarten graduation?
Wow.
Do you want to guess why?
Because you could read and nobody else could.
Correct. I was the only one who could read the speech. Nice. I actually still have the handwritten speech. My mom tucked it in this book of school memories. I was like, holy shit, all right. And then I read through it. I was like, that's not bad for 5, nearly 6. Okay. But I was like, how does that happen? How does one just teach themselves how to read? Even as a person who's done it, I don't get it because I don't remember it.
It is one of my very first memories.
Is it?
Is how the words clicked on the page. I still remember it.
Yeah.
Cat in the Hat.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is for my kiddo, but she just went from not reading to reading. And it was kind of magic. I mean, what it probably was all the reading at bedtime. And she would like the same stories over and over again. And I think, you know, if you're paying attention and you can line all that up. Exactly. And so I would say she's more of a sight reader than a phonics reader. But last week, she woke up and said her tummy hurt. And, you know, no fever, nothing serious. But Neil and I talked about it. We were like, sure, who gives a shit? Let her stay home. Like, I don't know. I kind of think school is garbage anyway at this point. Like, having had my kids home for all of last year and doing the online school thing and seeing it's like, oh, okay, everything they told us about school feels like a bit of a lie to prepare us for the workforce. So if she, you know, I don't know, let her have a little hangout at home. But we said, no video games, no YouTube. It's not a fun day. You need to rest if it's a sick day. And she had the best day. She just laid in bed and read all day.
That just sounds amazing.
And she grabbed some of her sister's graphic novels. They're by an author named Raina Telgemeier. And I think she read the one Smile, Sisters, and then she read half of Drama. Which, like, nobody can see this, but, like, they're almost an inch thick.
Wow.
Which I know it's graphic novels, so not a lot of text on there, but still. And I checked in the reading level as 8 to 12, and I was like, okay, kid. And she was so excited and so proud that she took all these books with her to school the next day, too.
Aww.
And then in the evening, she's sitting, I came upstairs, and then I look to the right, and I see she's sitting in a little folding chair that she has pointing towards her dresser, which it looks like it's almost supposed to be a desk for her. And then she turns to me and she's reading and she says, Mom, can you close the door? I'm reading. Like, it's very serious business. And my heart just burst. So I was like, okay.
Anything you want, honey? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want some money? Do you want money right now? Do you want more Barbies? Would that help you? Do you need toys? I don't know.
Toys.
Oh, no, books.
I want books.
Books. How about
books.
More books?
Yes. More books. More readers.
I know, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, I don't know.
That is cool.
Any books that kid wants, I don't really care. We'll get them. Because a kid that actually wants to read is pretty cool.
That is. Given in the day of video gaming,
right?
How popular it is.
Right.
Yeah, I say, of course.
So, Kris, what have you been reading or watching lately?
Okay, so on my Facebook feed, I don't get on Facebook very often.
No.
But I just don't.
That's where
I'm
our
more
mothers...
of a Twitter person.
Right, our mothers hang out on Facebook. Not with each other, but...
My mom doesn't even know how to turn on a computer.
Oh, really?
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah. She's, my mother does not do Facebook.
My mom is...
You should see her try to FaceTime me every day. I see the ceiling. I see everything. It's time to dust the light, Mom. You know, or she'll switch it around because she wants to show me something, and then she'll forget to switch it, so I'm staring at her jeans, or I'm staring at the dog, or the tablecloth, until about, like, 5 minutes goes by, and I'm like, Mom, can you please switch it? So she does. And my dad's worse. My dad, who needs to have the best and the latest iPhone anything and everything, is horrible at it. He's worse at FaceTiming than my mom is.
But he has to have the best.
He has to have the best.
Okay.
I know. I don't understand it. But anyway, so on Facebook, on my feed, I kept seeing like a little trailer for the movie Same But Different. It's like a New Zealand love story, and it's lesbian. I'm like, okay, I'll just go ahead and rent it. Here's the thing. So you can rent it. They have a website. It's SBD, so Same But Different, sbdmovie.com. And you can just watch it straight off the website instead of, they're not streaming it anywhere that I'm aware of.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so, hey, maybe it works. I mean, you get, $10 a pop, and every lesbian on earth, wants to rent it and see it. I mean, it's cute. It's a super cute story. It's about a Samoan filmmaker. Her name is Nikki, and there is I think her name is Rachel. And Rachel is quote unquote straight, and then she meets Nikki at a film thing, and like everything is all aflutter, and she's so confused, and so she finally ends up dating her. And so this is based on the real life story of a filmmaker and a producer / actress. So
cute.
It was cute. Yeah, it was cute. And then I watched the movie with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, The Lost City, which I loved it. I mean, it was cute. I don't know that I would love it, but it was super cute because we all love Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
And she's a romance writer in this movie. So of course I'm going to love it.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I had one of my coworkers told me that I should see it. She said it was hilarious and she really enjoyed it.
I watched it Friday night, and then my parents came over on Saturday, so I put it on for my dad while we went and walked the dogs, strolled with the dogs.
Yeah.
And then I watched some of it. You know, we played Uno too, and I was leaning over and watching a couple of the scenes because they were pretty funny.
Yeah,
they were pretty funny scenes.
Did your dad like it?
You know, so he did. He liked it, but my dad's very, very monotone. Yeah, that was he's very. I don't even know what to say. He's not unemotional because he's extremely emotional. But he was just like, yeah, it was fine. Like he doesn't get excited about like. Who knows? He gets excited about Korean soap operas. He's always trying to get me to watch them.
What?
Like, Dad. Yes, he is hooked on Korean soap operas. I'm like, Dad, no.
Oh my God, that's so funny because Neil's dad has been trying to get him to watch. It's not Korean, it's Turkish.
Oh.
And it's this like 500 episode Turkish show of some kind. I've probably gotten one or both parts of that statement wrong. I know that when Neil gets to this part in editing, he's going to say close, but not quite. But it was something like that. It's just this like super, super, super long show, which is one of those like, Dad, you're retired.
Right.
You have time to get into this.
Right. See, and my dad officially retired. He, we were talking about it. He goes, I'm officially retiring. And so his final day of work is June 30th.
Wow.
So that'll give him time to shut down the business and tell all of his clients that he is shutting it down. So
well, maybe I'll find the name of that show for your dad because he'll have
exactly.
time.
You might want to hand that over to me so I can put him in front of Netflix.
I think it is on Netflix.
I love it. Everything's on Netflix. And so the third thing, here's the deal. So I'm watching The Staircase with Toni Collette.
Okay, so
Stop it. She's in everything.
My phone and Twitter keeps telling me things about it, but I still don't actually know what this movie is about. Is it a movie? Is it a show? See, that's how little I know.
It's a series.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that pisses me off because I'm so spoiled by streaming is that it's weekly. It's like, The Walking Dead. It's weekly.
No.
Yeah, so it's a 8-episode series about a writer. His name is Michael Peterson, I think. And he's been accused of killing his wife. And so this is a series that covers it. It's a true story. It's based on a true story, true events. And so Colin Firth is the dad. And he has X amount of older children. And she has a couple of children. And they're all older. They're all adult kids. And so they've only been married 5 years. And so every episode you find something out a little bit more. And you don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
Did he do it? Did he not do it? It's one of those. So I'm halfway through it. So I started watching that and I'm laughing my ass off because Toni Collette, because she's everywhere. She is everywhere.
Just like Stanley Tucci.
Right.
Call back to another episode.
I will say this though. It's very graphic. It's very graphic.
Like the violence?
Like the quote unquote, the murder / death scene.
Oh.
We're not quite sure if it's a murder or if she fell down the stairs. That's why it's called The Staircase. But they have like reenactments, like not necessarily reenactments, but like what could have happened.
Yeah.
Like maybe this happened and you're like, oh my God, you can see that happening. Or you can see this way happening too. So it's just, but it's very graphic. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I watch The Walking Dead. I can take a lot of shit, but that's pretty harsh. So I just, a trigger warning there that if you are thinking about watching it, just know that it's very gory, very bloody.
That's really good to know.
Blood.
I will pass.
Oh, will you? Okay.
I'm sure you're shocked.
It's
I'm
rough.
a big baby. I'm not.
I know, but it's very good acting, of course. So I'm predicting now that Toni Collette's gonna get some awards for this one. She's gonna catch some awards. I bet you for this. She will.
Yeah. Okay.
She will. She just does a fantastic job. Anyway, enough about me. What about you? What are you watching?
Okay. So I kind of went back and forth about whether to talk about this one because I feel like it's odd to talk about one specific episode in one podcast. But I just thought it was so interesting and that I think there are people who listen to this podcast that would be interested in it too. I know I've been talking about Jonathan Van Ness a lot lately, but I love him and I'm not going to apologize for that. So he has a podcast called Getting Curious. It is wonderful. And there's some that I've really enjoyed recently. Like there's one about labor organizing that was fabulous. There's one about trees that was really interesting. But this one in particular that I really specifically recommend for our listeners, it came out on April 26th. And it is with Jen Mannion, who talks about female husbands. Have you ever heard about these before?
No.
Okay.
What's a female husband?
So I'm going to explain this very badly, but hopefully well enough to intrigue you to go and listen to this one podcast episode. So female husbands are a concept that it's like a historical concept, especially from what I recall of this podcast episode, especially in the UK and in the US. And kind of around that like 18th, 19th century time, where there were people who were born and assigned female at birth that for like some or most of their life were living as men, often married to women. And wow. I know, it's so cool. And some of these people probably were trans men, although it's not always possible to say. And some might have lived that way as a sailor for a while, like lived as a man, wow, as a sailor, and then gotten married to and then kind of almost like detransitioned if they had even been transitioning. And then, like will get married to a man and then live as a woman again. But Jen Mannion goes through, I actually don't know this professor's pronouns. So I'm going to try to avoid pronouns altogether because I'm not sure. But talks about, the cases of like specific couples. And there are some that just live together forever and fairly happily. And there are some where, say, when they split up, the wife will out them so that, and there can be some, like sometimes there can be some kind of serious consequences with getting arrested and all that. Really, really fascinating. And I highly recommend. It's such an interesting, fabulous episode full of anecdotes of historical figures. Of course, Ann Lister comes up.
Oh, yeah. That's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Gentleman Jack. But it was so good. So that's one. The other thing, so I've started watching. I'm not done yet, but I listened to you. Finally. I don't always listen to you.
Yay!
Because sometimes I'm just stubborn. But this time I listened to you and I started watching Heartstopper.
Yes!
Oh my God.
Yes.
It is so cute. It is so cute. For anyone who didn't listen to the last episode, in the last episode that was Kris's official recommendation, and it's just like sweet queer boys falling in love in high school. One of them knows he's gay. The other one doesn't know that he's queer at first and sort of like figures it out. And it's just like, so much is so good about that show. And I think you covered a lot of that, so I won't get too much into the content. But I think what I want to point out that works for me really well is there's like little bits of animation throughout it to add to the whimsy. Yeah. So like little animated leaves blowing across the scene and like and the music is used so perfectly to evoke emotion and to, it's just like, it's just the sweetest. It's the sweetest thing. And I love that so there's the I don't remember any of their names.
Charlie, Nick.
Right. I kind of love that Nick is a big old himbo.
Yes. I know. I love
right?
I
like
love
a
Nick.
Big old, super popular rugby playing himbo.
Right.
What could be better? I think that's adorable. And I love that the trans girl is played by a trans girl. I think that's really fantastic too. So I would like to, I don't know if we can like retroactively make that a double recommendation.
Ooh, yes, let's do it.
But I completely recommend it. The only thing that surprised me that I don't feel like many people are talking about is, so you talked about how in the first episode he's kind of Charlie's kind of seeing someone, and it's this kid who doesn't want to be seen with him. He's afraid to come out. He has a girlfriend kind of in public and whatever. But after Charlie says, I don't want to see you anymore, this other kid's named Ben says like, come and meet me. And he like forces a kiss onto Charlie. And I was really surprised that I'm not really seeing much conversation about that because that is assault.
Right.
But I love
Nick.
That, well,
yeah.
Right. Nick comes in and is
Saves
like,
the day.
right.
He's a hero.
How sweet.
I know. I want Nick as my child.
Amazing about him.
I want him as my child. He would make me so proud.
I could kind of see, like, I don't know, like your coloring is a little similar.
Yeah, I could be Nick's
Your
mom.
hair could be a little redder. And then you could look like his mom.
I could. Yay! I have a son.
So, right? Hooray! Everybody's going to be so surprised.
Right.
Especially your parents.
But
wait,
queer
what?
son. Yes.
How? Now? What? How? What? Now? Okay. And then the third thing that I saw, not queer, but really, really, really excellent, was a documentary. And it's called Street Gang, How We Got to Sesame Street. And it goes back to the origins of Sesame Street. How did it come about? What was the point of it all? How did they get funding for it? Who were the people that worked on it in the early years? And so it showed, and stuff that I just had I didn't have any idea about any of it. But then it would pop in these little bits and clips from the show. And it was often things that I know I saw when I was a kid. Like they were pulling clips from the 70s and then the early 80s. And so I would have been watching it. Geez, when was I born? When would I have been actually paying attention to a TV?
Maybe 82?
Yeah, because I would have started school in 84. So probably, yeah, like between 82 and 84. But it all started because there was, oh geez, I'm getting some of it wrong. But basically it was this idea of we want to bring education into the inner city to help kids, especially from low-income families, Black families, brown families, kids who may not have quite the same advantages, to help them have a better start at school.
Nice. I did not know that.
Right. And I'm watching it and I was just, the whole time I was like, oh my God, is this white lady a gigantic racist?
Oh.
Like, am I going to find out? And so I actually looked up her name. I can't remember what it is, but I looked up her name and I just looked up like her name plus racism and I found nothing.
Yes. Woohoo!
What a relief. But like Jim Henson, did you know that before he was like where the Muppets actually started was like short sketches that were basically commercials?
No.
It was like the 1950s. Like if you think about some of like,
wow.
Think back to some of those 1950s shows. And so it might be for like cigarettes or whatever. And some of them were kind of grotesque.
Wow.
Like they were super dark. So he didn't start in this children's realm at all. It was very much like for an adult audience. And then he happened to get recruited to work on Sesame Street.
Wow.
And yeah, it's so good. And I didn't know the original Gordon. Did you watch Sesame Street or were you?
No, I wasn't here. Yeah, I missed all of that. I missed Sesame Street, Electric Company. I missed all of that.
Yeah. When I was watching it, there was a character named Gordon, but what I didn't realize was that there was a different person playing Gordon before that. And he is Holly Robinson Pete's father, which I thought was kind of cool. So they come on together. She comes on with him for those to talk about his time on the show, which I thought was kind of cool.
I loved seeing like a lot of musicians went on Sesame Street. Like,
oh yes.
So I love seeing the old clips, and I remember one time they showed Natalie Merchant. You know, she's like my all-time babe. And they showed Natalie Merchant on Sesame Street. And I love like the old, even like Morgan Freeman, you know?
Oh, yeah.
There's just so many actors and actresses and singers that have, you know, made guest appearances on Sesame Street. So it's always fun to see that.
They have some of those, but it's more like, because it was back then, it was more like Stevie Wonder and who was the jazz trumpet guy that could blow his cheeks out really far?
Louis Armstrong?
I don't think it was him. I think it might have been Dizzy Gillespie.
Oh yeah, Dizzy. Yes.
They had some
not long ago. I mean, I gotta look now. I'm like Googling this.
Well, I mean, it was out in the 70s, and they had a clip that was so moving, where it was a quite young Jesse Jackson leading a group of children in affirmations, like I am young, but I am strong and I am important. And I was like, oh man, you're making me feel feelings right now. I don't know how I feel about it.
But that's so sweet. I mean, that's so...
It was so good. So yes, you know what? If it was queer, it would be an official recommendation, but it's not. So this is an unofficial total recommendation.
Where did you watch it? Where, like Netflix?
So I am in Canada, so I watched it on a service called Crave.
Okay.
And I am going to talk more slowly so that I
can Google it on that.
No, so I can bring it up on here because, so the thing about Crave, it's actually kind of cool. We are quite lucky in Canada that we get, so it's this one streaming service that has like HBO, HBO Max, Stars, and Showtime. So it has a lot of, But I'm not seeing the HBO stamp on it, so I have no idea.
I'm going to Google it.
But if you're in Canada, you can get it on Crave.
It says watch it on HBO Max, Spectrum TV, Prime Video, Apple TV, Redbox.
There you go.
Voodoo or Voodoo Movie. Yeah, so you can find it.
You can find it.
That's cool. I'm going to have to look at, I'm going to totally watch it because, animal. Mana, mana.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
All right, Kris, what is your official recommendation this week?
Okay, since I've been recommending a lot of fluffy, feel-good, heartfelt shows, movies, so because I watched The Staircase, or I've been watching The Staircase, fuck you, Lynn, from work for telling me about it to watch it, I am recommending a movie from 2003. The movie is Monster. Monster with Charlize Theron and Christina Ricci. And so here's the blurb.
Okay.
Monster is a 2003 American biographical crime drama film written and directed by Patty Jenkins in her feature directorial debut. The film is about serial killer Aileen Wuornos.
I think it's Wuornos, but I'm not totally sure.
Wuornos. I think so too. A street prostitute who murdered 7 of her male clients between 1989 and 1990 and was executed in Florida in 2002. So, it stars Charlize Theron, who also produced as Wuornos, and Christina Ricci as her semi-fictionalized lover, Selby Wall. So, and she is based on Wuornos' real-life girlfriend, Tyria Moore.
Okay.
So, I've seen this movie like 5 times.
Whoa.
Like, I saw, and Charlize never disappoints. Like, she's won all Best Actress awards for everything. She got the Oscar, she got the Golden Globe, the Screen Actors Guild, GLAAD Media Awards. So even though the story it's a horrible story. I mean, serial killer, but the acting is amazing. Amazing. I can't, every time I see it, she never disappoints, truly. She does such a good job of looking and acting the part that you would have never guessed that she is Charlize Theron. Never in a million years.
So I've never seen this movie because I assumed it would be gross, but I never thought to check. Is it graphic?
Not really. No, it really isn't. So the very first time she kills somebody, she goes to do turn a trick. She goes in the woods with this guy. They're driving in the car, and she's like, "That's kind of far. Let's not go this far." And it's like, "Oh, privacy, blah, blah, blah." And he beats the living shit out of her. Oh, yeah. He has her tied up. I mean, he is going to kill her. Yeah. I mean, he's doing horrible things. And so she gets loose. She somehow gets loose. And the same time he figures out that she's loose, that she get out of her restraints, she finds a gun and just automatically shoots him. Yeah. Just to say, a total self-defense. You can tell that the first time she killed somebody, it was in self-defense because she was going to die. For sure. So then I think when she realizes she got away with it, then it became more of not self-defense, but I'm going to kill people who made me feel bad, who used me for the wrong reasons. So, but let's go back a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the queerness in this movie. At the very beginning, you see her. So Aileen goes into a gay bar, and she doesn't realize it's a gay bar. It's pouring down rain. She just runs into a bar to get out of the rain. And so Christina Ricci, and if for you people who don't know, she was in Yellow Jackets. She's been around forever. She was a child actor and stuff. She's been around forever. So she's really shy and socially awkward, and she wants to be a part of the queer community, and nobody talks to her at the bar. So she sees Aileen, and she goes in there, or maybe it's pronounced Aileen. It's Aileen, and honestly, I can't remember if Eileen or Aileen or how it's pronounced. Aileen.
Sure.
We'll go with Aileen.
Yeah.
Sure. So anyway, so she's like, let me buy you a beer, you know, and so Aileen's like, I'm not a dyke, get your hands off me, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, Christina Ricci's like, hey, I just want to talk. I need somebody to talk to. Nobody's talking to me. So I just, you know, she's kind of like, she just has like a defeated kind of personality because everybody's against her. Like her dad, she's living with her aunt because her dad knows that she's gay and trying to get, you know, trying to go someplace to sort it out and not be gay anymore. So she talks to Aileen and she's like, hey, why don't you come back to my place? I think she figures it out. Like she's really homeless. She doesn't have anywhere to go. She's like, come back to my place, be platonic. Just, you know, you can have a rest, a bed, and that's it. And so when they're in bed together, totally clothed, Selby is Christina Ricci's character. Selby says, hey, can I touch your face? Do you mind if I touch you? And so for like, you can just see it, like the emotions across her face. It's like, she's never been touched in a way that is out of love. She's only ever been used. And so she realizes that this person really cares for her. So then it becomes, I will do anything for this woman who has shown me nothing but love because she's never had it before. So it's kind of a, not really catch-22, but she needs money to provide a place for her and her girlfriend to live. And so she turns tricks. And she doesn't want to be a prostitute anymore, but she can't get another job because nobody's going to give her an opportunity. So she ends up continuing to prostitute herself, and she's so angry at these men who stop and want whatever they want from her. So she ends up like killing them. And so she kills, and I think the thing that really did her in was she killed a cop.
Oh.
Yeah. So she does it. So I'm trying to think. Let's see. So she is actually considered the first woman profiled by the FBI as a serial killer.
Yeah, that makes sense because most serial killers are men, aren't they? And especially,
for sure.
And especially white men for the most part.
Right. And so, but this is the first time they actually had a profile. Because like there have been serial killers, women before. Because I went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, oh, is this the first one ever? And so somebody in 1793 killed a bunch of people, but, you know, that you can't really, there's no profile. Right. So it was interesting. And I think that people should watch this because true crime is so hot right now. And this movie that even though it's almost 20 years old, you know, you'll recognize the actresses and the acting is superb. I mean, there's a lesbian relationship, yes, and it doesn't end well. But you see how love can really empower a person. I mean, just a little bit, and not empower in a bad way. I just meant it finally gave her purpose, not to kill, but just like she realizes she's worth something and that somebody actually does care for her. So she just had no other way to take care of Selby. And so Selby did not get any jail time because Aileen, she took it all herself. She said, it's all me. Because it was all her. I mean, Selby had nothing to do with it. So there was a recording and the cops caught her saying, you know, this is all me. You had nothing to do with it. And so then, and that person, the girlfriend is still alive.
Well, and just thinking about what you said about how the ending isn't positive, but am I right in thinking, again, I haven't seen it, but am I right in thinking it's still different? Like it's not a bury your gays story, or it's not a queer pain story for the sake of selling queer pain.
Right. No.
And telling someone's life story. Like I feel like there's a big difference between like, okay, this was a real person and like shitty things happened to them versus we're going to invent this situation to reinforce the idea that queer people don't deserve happy endings, which is like,
all right, they don't deserve to live.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, no, she really did have a rough life. Oh my gosh. If you heard about it, I mean, it was tragic. Yeah. It was awful. It was just awful. It's tough. I mean, there's so many trigger warnings in this, but like I said, the acting is so superb in this, you know, and everybody's into true crime now and it's everywhere. It's on like The Staircase. I'm watching that, you know, and I watch 2020 and Dateline. I'm always watching something where somebody dies, you know.
See, and then there's
and
me.
then it's
nothing,
and then
nothing but Drag Race and Queer Eye and
well, no, that's good because we need both. We need both. Yeah. So What is your official recommendation for this week?
All right. So it's been a while since I've recommended a video game, but I have one, and holy shit, it is so good. I powered through the whole thing in 2 days. It probably took me, I don't think how many hours it took me. It probably took about 10 hours. So I played it over the weekend. It is called Citizen Sleeper. From what I can tell, I haven't dug too deeply, but I think it's available on most or all platforms. I played it on my Nintendo. Neil played it on, it's on Xbox Game Pass. So if you have a Game Pass subscription, you don't have to pay extra for it. So, which tells me it's probably in the PlayStation Store, and it's definitely in the Steam Store. It is an RPG from an indie publisher, and it's a cyberpunk world. And you know, Neil and I were talking about it. It is kind of nice when you play and enjoy a game that your partner has also played and enjoyed, because then it's like, yay, I have someone to talk to about this. And actually, he's the one, he recommended I play it. And then he also recommended it to one of my best friends who, he actually got to it before I did. So I was like, hey, I heard Neil recommended Citizen Sleeper. He's like, yeah, I played the whole thing. It was amazing. Like, he just blew through it super quickly. So that's 3 people recommending this game. It's like a blend of, I don't know if you know you would have heard when we did the Drunk Lesfic episode on your Patreon with Tegan Shepard. And remember how Tegan was, well, I mean, she was
Mass Effect, yeah.
super fucking drunk. But like when we went off on our tangent about Mass Effect, so it's like a
I'm like, I'm just going to go get another drink.
Yeah, I gotta go. Oh, you guys are still talking about this. But I just went to the store and came back. Yeah, so it's like a blend of if you take Mass Effect, but Blade Runner, and put them together. Because Blade Runner is also, like, quite dark and has some similar themes. So the idea is that you are playing as what's called a sleeper. You are an android that has been loaded with a human consciousness, because the idea is that there is this mega corporation out in the galaxy called SNARP. And people who need money will just like get paid to give them their consciousness. And so there's like like the human kind of keeps going on with their life. They have this money now, but the consciousness gets loaded into these sleepers who then have to go and do work for SNARP. So it's effectively like android slaves. They're a bad company. They do not hold up well in this game. Nobody likes them. They're the assholes. And so the sleeper that you're playing is on the run, wakes up kind of in this, like, what? Like, you wake up in a container on this worn out space station that's out on the, those outer edges of civilization. And you have to stay alive. And how do you do this? Especially knowing that SNARP is going to send someone to try and collect you and bring you back and go back and do more work. The reason I liked this so much is that, you know, for a quick game, because I do think that like a 10-hour game is pretty quick in video games, because you can have other games like, I don't know, like Witcher 3 or what was that other one? Like, I've played games where I've put more than 100 hours. Even Stardew Valley, I've put more than 100 hours into.
Wow.
It goes through some really sophisticated themes and asks questions like, you know, what does it mean to be human? Like, sure, you're playing an android, but you have human memories and you go through human experiences and you have to go and work at jobs and you have to eat food, not because you need the nutrients, like the vitamins and minerals kind of get bypassed, but the food gets converted into energy, which, you know, as a sleeper, you need that energy to keep going. And also, though, you have to find, not only that, but like SNARP has created these sleepers so that they decay without this particular, it's almost like a medication. It's a stabilizer. That's not unlike people who have to take medication for various things, right? Like, you have to do that or your heart is going to go out or your liver might go out or whatever. And at the same time, you know, like I was saying about SNARP, we see the exploitation not only of these sleepers, but also even on this space station, you come across humans who are being exploited by the local company. And there is a lot of poverty and there is corruption. There's strong themes of found family as well. You can choose to, there's 3 possible endings that there's 3 scenarios where you can go through and it can make decisions for you about how you end the game. You can literally go off with a dad and his daughter. You can choose to join. I'm going to say this and it's going to sound completely bonkers, but it's almost like there's this consciousness underlying this space station, and you can choose to merge in with this consciousness, or you can choose to go with someone who kind of like showed themselves earlier in the game to be kind of sketchy and not trustworthy, but you can make your peace with that person and somebody else that you've been doing work with, and maybe you'll be a little found family with those dudes.
So do you get to pick your sex? I mean, I like
So here's the thing. You don't, but it's also not relevant. And there are non-binary characters throughout the game. And that's, for me, where like it really... Seeing a game with so much non-binary representation was one of the big, like that for me was when I was like, I have to recommend this. Absolutely, I have to. There's a doctor on the station named Sabine who is referred to only ever with they, them pronouns and ends up with this woman who is kind of an enemy at first until they realize that actually they have a common enemy and that's why this person has set them up in opposition. But with there being so much non-binary representation, it feels almost like it's interrogating gender without talking about gender.
Okay.
I don't know if that actually makes sense. Like, this is not a world that reflects a lot of what we see in our world. It's not like this very strict, heteronormative, patriarchal. It's much more like the corporation against the individual is what this world is about. And how do you survive in that? And then, like, actually it is, I was a little surprised. I don't think I saw, like, there was no sex work that I saw in this game, which would have been super easy to do and like to do in a real sex negative way, which would have been frustrating and not cool.
Right.
But instead it's, the other thing that's really important about this is that this is a game with a dice system. So every day you wake up, and if your condition is good, because remember how I said that they have to take almost like that stabilizer, the more their condition breaks down, the fewer dice they have to work with. And you can have up to 5 dice. And those 5 dice are basically 5 things you can do that day. So what are you going to do with your 5 actions that day? Are you going to make money? Are you going to help out a friend? Are you going to work at a job that will feed you? Or will you work at a job that will maybe give you money? Like, I found it really, really interesting because it enforced a scarcity. Sometimes that scarcity was time and sometimes it was resources. And there were days where I had to really make a decision and it's like, I'd really love to help this person. But if I don't go do this other thing, my character will starve. Sorry.
Don't you think we've had enough of that the last 2 years? Just saying.
Oh, I know. Well, and I did find like there were times that I had to make choices. Well, I suppose I didn't have to, but I made choices for my character that didn't actually line up with my values, but they were actually just about making sure that the sleeper survived. And so that even included going out, well, it would have shut down an entire storyline which is fine. Like you can choose not to engage with things and just not follow that storyline. But there was this, so when I was talking about the doctor and the 2 that were enemies who actually ended up becoming lovers, the one that's not a doctor, the other one is with like a local gang. Basically, it's like a local, like not at the very top of the gang, but I would say kind of like middle management. Do gangs have middle management? I don't know.
Yes, they're called captains.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so kind of like that. And you have to gain that person's trust. And so she's like, okay, well, these are the kinds of jobs you can do. And I would patrol the neighborhood. Now, am I okay with that idea? We're going to just go like patrol the neighborhood and shake down some people?
Right.
No, but gave me energy.
But to play the game, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I get it, because then you can be somebody else on games. That's kind of the fun, the whole thing about playing video games is you can be whoever you want.
It's true. Although for the most part, when I play games, I do try to do things that align with my personal values as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because even knowing that something is a game, like, I'm probably not going to pick up a game if it gets a lot of press for having this, like, pretty problematic content,
Yeah.
whether it is, misogyny or racism or homophobia or whatever. Like, I'm not gonna play Grand Theft Auto. Is it just a game?
Right.
Yeah, like, is it just a game? Yes. Do I want to go around murdering sex workers? No.
No.
Yeah. Highly recommend Citizen Sleeper. It's so playable. The music is super good. The art is fantastic. It all just made this really satisfying package, and I think people should go and get it. Oh, and it's not very expensive. Sorry, that's the other thing. it's like under...
It's affordable.
Yeah, it's affordable. It's like under $20. And definitely, I think, well worth the time and the dollars. So, that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed the show, please make sure that you subscribe so that you'll get notified whenever we release a new episode. If you have a friend you think would like the show, please tell them all about it. We're trying to reach more people who need queer media recommendations all the time. And if you'd like to support the show, we have a link to our Ko-fi in the notes, or you can visit kofi.com/queerlyrecommended. It's not necessary, always appreciated, and it's there if you are interested.
Or if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, just search for Queerly Recommended on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye!
Bye!